Hello and what is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and today the new drift update for Forza Motorsport 7, which of course there's other things included in this update, but the big thing is the drift upgrades and the drift tuning. So what I'm going to be showing you guys right now is how to learn how to use all these new features, learn how to actually gain score now, and learn how to do well with your scoring. So basically what I recommend is just go straight to the dealership and pick up a 09 ZR1. Don't do anything to it, just pick up a stock 09 ZR1. And this is more for people that did not watch the streams, didn't watch any of the tutorials, and like any of the tutorials that they did on the streams, well, they didn't really do any tutorials, but it was more about the developer explaining how the system works. So once you go into the upgrades, all I want you to do is get the drift springs and dampers. That's it. And really what that gives you is an angle kit. And that's pretty much, it gives you a race suspension and an angle kit. And the reason why that's important is because once you go over to alignment, you see your positive and negative camber adjustments for the front and the rear, you see your toe adjustment, you see your caster adjustment. But the biggest thing is this automatically gives you 60 degrees of steering angle. Now, I recommend starting out at 60 degrees. I don't think there's any reason to go less than that, especially if you're just like starting out and you want a dedicated drift car. Just get an 09 ZR1, pop this on it, and then go out for some practice. Now, really, driving the car is not actually difficult. If you've driven drift cars before, if you've built your own drift cars before, these will feel really, really easy to drive. Although, one of the biggest things you'll have to get used to is the fact that the limits are a lot higher now. So, with the limits being higher, you need to kind of rework your brain a little bit. Now, also, in order to see everything, make sure your drift HUD is on. If your drift HUD is not on, this isn't going to work properly. But yeah, make sure you go into the menu or the HUD menu, make sure your drift HUD is on. I turned the track limits on just because I kind of wanted to. I kind of wanted them there, but you don't have to by any means. I was just like, I'll just put them on. But the drift HUD is what you mainly need to have on. Another thing that you need to turn on, or at least that I recommend turning on, is the full track line until you actually learn where the actual track line is, because by turning the full line on, this will tell you where your maximum scoring areas are going to be. And that includes the straightaways, because now with this update, you can link an entire track with drift points if you are able to. So if you're wanting to like do little transitions and manji back and forth down a straightaway, then you can do that, and you can retain your combo while doing that. Now, the points will bank quicker. Keep that in mind. So if you mess up a combo or if you pull out of your drift, they will bank quicker than you may be used to. Now, that I can see being frustrating for some people, but if you actually get used to the system, if you actually really put some time and effort into it, then it's not going to be too bad. Now, full disclosure, I am not in any way perfect at this yet, but I'm basically transitioning what I know from drifting before the update into now drifting with the update. And as you can see, we started out pretty shallow, and we're continuing to be pretty shallow through this corner, but you can see over on the right your angle, your speed, and your line. And the line is the main thing that I want you guys to look at, because as you follow the line down the straightaway, it still matters. Your speed still matters, your angle still matters, your line still matters. Now, keeping that in mind, you can see now we're able to go a little bit further with angle, and it's really helping our score and our angle rating. So speed, again, is very important too. And that actually will also emphasize, like, you got to stay on the throttle. When you get it up into these high-speed sections, put it in fourth and just pin it. And remember, this is exactly how this thing comes from the factory, just with the drift suspension installed. There's no other trickery on this car. There's no weird tuning. There's no power mods. There's no different tires. This is on the tires it comes with from the factory. And you can see when we dropped away from the actual racing line, our line rating went down dramatically. So it really does make a difference to stay real close to that line and make sure that you're actually in line with it. Now, am I saying that I'm perfect at it? No, absolutely not. I got practice of my own to do. But what I'm really trying to relay to you guys is make sure you turn the line on so you know exactly where it is. Because when I first tried out this update, I only had the line on for braking zones. And so, with that being said, I didn't have any line. Like right here, wherever the line is blue, I wouldn't have had a line. And I think a lot of people use braking only or full line off, but I recommend, if you're really trying to go for drift scores, turn that thing on. seriously, turn that thing on, because that will tell you exactly where you need to be and exactly how close to the line you need to be, because you can be kind of, you don't have to be on top of the line to get a perfect 10 line score. You can be basically like the front of the car kind of touching it, or the rear of the car touching it. And also, I went offline there to show you guys that you can actually tap the wall now and not lose your points. And by the way, the fact that I can actually score through this section now is like a huge thing for me, because I've always wanted to actually get a score through this section, and I was never able to with the way, the game's scoring worked. But right now, with the new update, you can see that it's actually possible. Now, the other thing with following the line in these sweepers is that I recommend using your front brakes a little bit. So not just your e-brake, not just your throttle, use the front brakes to slowly kind of settle the car down. You can go a little bit, maybe half pressure and then let off, half pressure and then let off, as you desire, and just kind of base it on feel. Now, when you slam the wall, all of your points are gone. Completely gone, no questions asked. They just take all of your points away, which is important to note, but it's also, I would expect that, and I would hope that everybody else would be expecting that, considering the fact that that's the way it was before. Just make sure, the big thing is make sure you keep your speed up, make sure you keep your flow going. If you, like I said, if you drop away, not only will you lose your points, but you'll also lose that multiplier that you get from the line rating. So stay on that line, and it will really, really, really help you out. And if you have enough speed to pair the speed, the line, and the angle, that's when you're really golden. Because if you think about it, all of these things contribute to each other. Your angle is something that you can hold for longer based on how fast you're going. So right there, angle and speed are connected. Your line helps you flow better through the track. So right there, the line also helps you. Now, keep in mind that the line is not always going to be the best drift line, so you will sometimes have to make some adjustments and have to make some sacrifices with where you slide the car based on, what actual kind of rhythm you're running. And if you are in a rhythm and you have to deviate from the line, it's not like a huge deal. You're not going to lose like a bunch of points for it. You're not going to get points taken away for it. But you just need to know that you're not going to be scoring at your maximum potential. And get used to not running that corner wide. I am going to have to get used to it, and I think a lot of people are going to have to get used to it as well. Get used to not running that corner wide, because as long as you don't run that corner wide, you'll be okay. And I really find it interesting now to watch the gameplay back and see where it's like I can see what would have been the car's limit before this update, and now seeing the limits of the car after the update are really, really a huge change. And honestly, like, you would not have been able to recover that before the update. You just wouldn't have been able to recover it. It would have been like a lost cause. But now, when you actually have proper drift suspension, you can recover it, and it's a beautiful thing. It really is, and it really makes the drifting a lot more fun. Now, the best way to practice following that line is going to be to go to Test Track Airfield, and not the completely open version. If you want to go to the completely open version and mess around, you could do that through test drive mode. But in order to really practice staying on that line at high speeds, run the standard racing layout, and you'll actually be given a full line throughout the entire track, and you'll really be able to hone in on it and see, oh, this is what I need to be practicing. And the more you practice it, the better you'll get. And the better you'll get, or the better you get, the more you'll improve your scoring potential. So, because scoring potential is everything here. Scoring potential is literally the biggest thing. And as long as you practice, you'll be able to hone these techniques. And this is really going to disrupt the drift leaderboards a lot, because a lot of people are used to just, throwing into corners with as much angle as they can, and their line doesn't matter, right? Because the game will give them scores anyway. But now, with your score being dependent on your line, your speed, and your angle, all as one together, you're going to really have to focus in on practicing these techniques, and I feel like Test Track Airfield is the #1 best place to go to practice them. Now, the only thing that you don't really get to practice here is low-speed stuff, but you do get to practice holding angles at high speeds in sweepers and recovering them, and I think that's one of the biggest areas where people are going to have a little bit of an issue, is because they're not used to going to that massive angle, and they're going to go, whoa, what is this? And they're not going to know how to correct it. But honestly, you just correct it how you would before. Let off the throttle, add in a little bit more steering, and, don't necessarily let off all the way, because then you'll transfer the weight really abruptly, but let off a little bit, release the steering a little bit, and keep that balance going, and don't be afraid to feather the actual brakes and not just the e-brake, because that's also important. Now, if you do screw up, which I did here, just kind of get back into line and keep going. This is a practice thing, and it's going to be a practice thing the more you do it. And really, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So don't get discouraged, and don't get frustrated, don't get discouraged. The more you do this, the more it's going to come to you naturally. And the reason why I'm using this car as a way to not only demonstrate this, but also as a recommendation for you guys to practice, is the fact that you can spin the tires and forth with no power mods. This is a car that you can just throw the drift suspension on and go. You have a drift car, basically, that's good to go, no problem. You have a drift car that is effectively ready to go with no issues. It's the best practice car. It's the best way to get started after this update, and it's the best way to learn how the new scoring system works, and it's the best way to practice it. So if you guys enjoyed this introduction to the drift update in Forza Motorsport 7, don't forget to leave me a like. Tell me in the comments below what you guys thought of it, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more. Make sure you check back later today for more drift builds, as well as drift suspension installs on other cars in the game, and more. So I will see you guys there. I'm going to be having a blast with this update. Talk to you guys later.